In this tutorial, we are going to copy ranges to other ranges. So for example, I want to copy from A1 down to E21 and paste it somewhere around the not Frank tab, perhaps F19 and across and down. We're doing this much in the same way as we can do with the edit, copy, and then edit a special values here, where we can do values only, format only, formula only, conditional formatting, data validation, transpose, column width only, and all except borders. Now this is a different approach to these get values and set values, but I have a number of video tutorials and written tutorials on them already, which I'll link in the description below. Now to play along, there is also a copy of this starter sheet in the link in the description below. Grab a copy of the sheet now, and when you're ready and set up, we'll get started. Okay, you're back. So this tutorial is part of a larger series on duplicating spreadsheets, duplicating sheet tabs to other spreadsheets, and copying ranges to ranges in Google Sheets with Google Apps scripts. So let's dive in and write some code. Let's create a function called copy range to range. Cool. And we'll add in a spreadsheet variable. So const, it's a constant variable, one that doesn't change, equals spreadsheet app dot get, and also get active spreadsheet, this one here. Okay, from our spreadsheet, let's make a range variable. So we'll say const range. That's going to be equal to spreadsheet get sheet by name. And we can hard code in the name here, or we can declare it somewhere else. Let's keep with our practice of putting everything in globals that we may reuse another time. So we will declare a sheet name. Now, if you've been following the previous tutorials, we've already added this in the globals values, but you can go ahead and add this value in here. You won't need these values for this tutorial though. So we've got our sheet name. And then what do we need to do? We need to grab the range. So we can say get range. And we'll do the same again. We'll create a global called range. And head back to our globals here. And just underneath, say const range. We could even say source sheet name, source range for better clarity too. But we'll just keep it like this. And that range is going to be over here. We'll keep it from A1 down to E21. So A1 colon E21. Okay, cool. Let's head back and const. Okay, that's fixed up now, and we're good to go. So nice. What's our next step? So our next step is to grab our destination sheet or our destination range. So we'll say const destination sheet, and that's going to be equal to spreadsheet dot get sheet by name. Now previously I chained the get sheet by name and then the get range together. We'll keep these separate this time. And where we're going to put it, let's put it in lonely old Frank over here. Maybe this G19 might be a good idea. So let's head back to our globals and say const dest sheet name. That's going to be the sheet tab name down here. So copy. And then const, we also need a range. So we'll say const dest range. And that is going to be equal to, now with the method that we're going to use, unlike in get values and set values, we don't need the entire range here. So we don't need to go G19, count all the way across and then all the way down for our range here. We just need the first value. So that's going to be this G19 for us. Sweet. Okay, let's head back now and input our sheet name, which was dest sheet name. And then const destination range. And that's equal to destination sheet dot get range, our dest range. Cool. All right, so our variable's all set up. So what do we need to do now? Well, it's pretty easy from here on in. So we're just going to say range dot. So we're going to collect the range, the source range. Well, this is odd. And then declare the copy to method. And where's it going to go? Well, it's going to go in the destination range. Done. We'll hit save. Okay, let's go ahead and run this. Let's head over to Not Frank. Click over here so you can see what's going on, and we'll hit run. Okay, so if we look over here, we have all our data in place. So our checkboxes still work. Our random conditional formatting works over here. Our drop-down menus still work. All our coloring and everything is in here. There is one thing that is missing, however. Can you see what it is? Let's head back to here. And then we'll head back to Not Frank. Did you catch it? Yeah, that's right. So it's this column here. This column here is not the correct width. We need to match this width as well. So how do we go about doing that? There are some extra parameters inside the copy to method that we can apply to do this. So what we're going to do next is just add an extra copy to method here called range dot copy to, and we still want our destination range. But this time around, we are going to call an enumerator. So you can see up here, this option can take an enumerator. We go to this option here and whether or not it is transposed. Now, if you leave transposed out, it's going to ignore these last two parameters and just do exactly what we did previously. So let's go here and say spreadsheet. So where do we get this enumerator from? Copy, paste type. And then we've got a list of options here. So copy and paste column width is the first one that we need. Then we need to declare whether transpose, which means moving everything. So for example, copy this data would then be transposed down this way. We don't want that, so we're going to say false. And then let's hit save. Okay, let's clear out Not Frank. Frank's details here. And rerun. Okay, so you can see now this H column has been widened to match the column width of the source data. This alternate paste value is also found here. So it's paste special, column widths only. Cool. So what about if we just want to display the values, not the formatting, conditional formatting, or data validation? Let's see how we do that. So let me just grab this, select it, hit delete again to get rid of data validation, then control / to get rid of the formatting. Okay, so let's go up here and just comment these items out in our code and head down. And this time we just want the values. Just values. Cool. So to do this, we're just going to go range dot copy to again, and then destination range. And then what do we need to do? We need to declare or grab this enumerator. So we head back into our spreadsheet app, copy, paste type, and what do we want? Paste values. And of course we need to set the last parameter to false because we don't want to transpose. Hit save. Okay, let's hit run again. And this time around you can see we've only got the values. You can see we don't have any formulas. We don't have any formulas in there, but this one is an unusual one. It looks like there's a formula in there, but there actually isn't. Why? Well, if we go back here, we can see it's called a formula text. So it's an unusual type of Google Sheets function that will display a formula from a certain range. So this is displaying this pit here, which is made up of the P from copy, the I from this, and the T from data. So it's always good to know. The image stays, it's been copied and pasted in, it hasn't been added. So here originally the image is part of a formula where it has been imported via the image tag. However, when we copy it over, it's just a paste inside cell tag. So just the same way you would insert image in the cell. Cool, so we've learned a few things there. And again, that's the same as paste special, values only, Control-Shift-V. Now there's a couple other ways that you can do this. with similar approaches, and it might be a bit easier or more intuitive for you to remember. Another approach is going range dot copy to again, destination range. And this time around, we can do this approach here. So you can see where it says contents only, true. Well, we can set that instead of having this long enumerator here and having to add in the false. So let's try that one out. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this, and it's added as an object, and we'll say contents only. Now you can't encapsulate the property in quotation marks here. It has to be outside of that, and then we need to set that to true. We'll hit save. Oh, and we need to close this. And let's go ahead and hit run. And there it is, the same thing happened. Awesome. There's one final approach that you might find easier. Let's go range dot copy values to range. And this has the same effect, but it's handled a little bit differently. And this might depend on your other calculations or your other coding that you're doing earlier. But what it takes first is the grid ID. So what's that? That's actually the ID of the sheet tab. So each one of these has its own special ID. The first one is always going to be 0, but I think we deleted that one out. No, it's still there. So you can see this grid ID is 0 for, well, this is odd, emoji. You can see that this grid ID is this one, and not Frank has its own grid ID here. Okay, so we need to go ahead and select not Frank's grid ID and paste that in over here. And then what's it going to ask for? The column integer. So that's going to be the first column of the target range here. So for us, that's column G. So we can say column 7, we can see here. So first one is going to be 7. So here, just like we did with this copy to, we don't really need to declare more. So we could say 7, 7 here, and it should work. And then we want to see how many down, which is going to be our 19. And then we could declare our end row target range to be 19. And we can hit save and just see what happens. So there you go. As you can see, we don't really need to declare this full range here, but if we keep it the same as the previous item, then that full limit will come out. Cool. That's one way to do it. A little bit finicky. I prefer the other two approaches. Sometimes we want to paste the values and the format, or just the format on its own. So let's go ahead and copy the format in only. So let's delete that now. We'll go to range dot copy to. And here we want our destination and spreadsheet app again. Copy paste dot. And this time we just want the format. Okay. Let's hit save. Oh, and of course the third parameter here, if we leave it out, it will mess up. So we'll say false. Hit save again. And let's go ahead and run. See what happens. Okay, you can see our format has come in nicely. Awesome. So what if we want the values and the format? So let's just grab this again and control backspace to clear the formatting. And let's head back up to this command here and uncomment it. And then it'll first run this and then it'll run this. So let's see what happens. So now our checkbox is missing, but it has a big giant true there. All our data validation is gone, and these random colors don't change every time you click, so there's no conditional formatting on those. Our formulas are missing as well too, but our format is in there too, nice and pretty. Cool, so it's a handy one to remember. Now there's two similar approaches here. We've got range, copy to, destination, and here we can use our curly braces again and say format only equals true, and it'll have the same effect. So let me just hide that, get rid of this for you, and hit run. And there's our pretty format again. Get back over, get rid of it. And there's the same one here as well, so we could just copy this over and just change some details. So instead of copy values to range, it should be copy format. Hit save, we'll hide this, hit save again, and run. Again, that works too. Sweet, so we've got values and format. What's next? What about just the formulas? What's going to happen when we copy and paste in just the formulas? You know what, let's not work too hard. Let's just grab this one, Control C, Control V, and change this to this last item here. Instead of paste format, let's see what options we've got. We'll go back to here and hit 1, and then we've got paste formula, and hit save and run. Okay, so this is strange. You might have been expecting just to see the formulas in place here, but you can see here none of these cells contain any formulas, just strings. So Google Sheets counts text in a cell as a formula on its own. However, our little image here is a formula. And then we've got our formula at the top here. Our formula to text is still there as well. We've got our ren between formula. They're also there as well. Cool. Now, some important things to note when we're copying and pasting over formulas. Let's go back to, well, this is odd here. Now, if I go into this cell, instead of saying A3, let's say it says formula to text A3. Let's head back to not Frank. What does it say here? Formula to text G21. Now, this is a relative value. It means it's relative to the cell as it's in. It's always going to have a look at the one next to it. So G21 is here. Now, if we make this absolute by perhaps hitting F4 and putting in $ in here, hitting save, and then we'll go back here and delete everything out, hit run again. Let's see what happens. You can see now we've got an NA because this formula text is referencing A3, which is all the way up here, and that contains nothing at the moment. All right, let's head back to our original data here and just F4 this out until it's all relative again. So very important to note when you're copying and pasting over formulas that have absolute values in them. Okay, so there's 2 more to go, and they're relatively simple. Let's copy and paste this. Last one, and Control V, and comment this one out. And next one we might just want in our data validation. So let's find the data validation enumerator. There it is there. Let's hit save and see what that reveals for us. We'll hit run. Cool. Sometimes with your data validations, it also has relative and absolute values. So you'll need to keep an eye on those as they are transferred across or copied and pasted across. But the drop-down values are still there and the checkbox values are there. Nothing else, however, appears. So I'm just going to grab these and delete. And let's have a look. Let's have a look at the final one in the copy and paste. So we'll go up to edit here. We've done values only, format, formulas, conditional formatting, data validation. We've done column widths only, and all except borders is our next one. So let's go ahead and do that one. So grab this, Control C, and then we want no borders, and hit run. Okay, so that's pasted everything in without these delightfully beautiful borders that I've generated beforehand. Cool. Data validation is still there, formulas are still there, but just not the borders. Okay, so there's the final 2 things that we want to try out here, and they're going to include the copying a range, say our emoji range, and then duplicating it multiple times in one paste. So let's create a new function for that and head down. We'll say function, copy range to duplicate. And we basically want all the stuff that we made up here. So we'll copy this, paste it down here, and we'll make some changes. This time we've got a temporary change. So we'll put in our we'll hard code this one this time, emoji, brevity. Our range is going to be this A1 to C2. So A1 to C, C2. Cool. Our destination sheet name is no change, not Frank, and our destination range is not going to change this time, but it may in a moment. So we'll keep everything as in. So that's going to land here. So let's go ahead and delete that out, delete again, control / cool bananas. Let's start off with something interesting. We'll start off with the transpose. So we're going to transpose this so it's running down instead of across. So again, all we need is this range copy to. This time round, when we select our enumerator, we don't want anything to happen. We want everything to stay as it is. So we can go dot, and then we have paste normal. And here is where whether or not we want to transpose the data, and we do. So transpose is true this time. Okay, let's go ahead and run it. So make sure we change to our new function and hit run. And there it is. It's been transposed all the way down. We can fix this one up, return it back to 100 here. It looks pretty again. Cool, so let's comment that one out. And what we're going to do is play with this destination range and see what happens here. So we'll just do a simple range dot copy to, and then add in our destination range and just leave it at that. And now we're going to play with this destination range here. Give ourselves a bit of space, see what's going on. So let's go ahead and change this range here. So beforehand, our destination range was simply the first cell that is going to be pasted into. What happens if we change that destination range to say G19 to something like M34? What's going to happen? Let's hit save and delete this out while we're waiting. Get rid of the background, the data validation, and let's hit run. Okay, so from 19, it has copied across 3 times. So it's gone all the way. We've said G19 to M34. However, we've got 1, 2, 3. So that's the original set here, as you can see here. And it's duplicated across another set because within the range of G19 to M, it can duplicate itself 2 times. So if we change that to perhaps O, then it would have duplicated itself 3 times. We'll check that out in a moment. Okay, what about down? How many times is it duplicated down? So we have G19 to M34. So it can duplicate down all the way down to the bottom of 34. If we did 33, then 33 would be missing. So let's just go ahead and change this time to say, let's take it to 23. So M23, and we'll go across to O here as well. Now, to handle this programmatically, you might want to look at multiples of the length and the height to be able to add that in perfectly each time when you're setting your range. Let's hit save now. We'll go ahead and delete this out. Delete. And hit run. So now we've gone from G19 to O. O contains, we can contain the range, this range here, 3 times within O. And then, but down, we have from G19 to O23, and that can only be contained twice. So it can 19 to 20, 21, 22, but it couldn't do it in 23 because it couldn't complete the next row down. Cool. I think that's it. We've done all our paste special values using Google Apps Scripts. There's one more thing that you might want to know or you're curious about, but it's unnecessarily a big one. In the next tutorial, we are going to cover how to copy and paste over row heights in Google Sheets, along with your copy and paste values. Stick around, and if you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more tutorials like this, subscribe. Until next time.